Walt Kelly was one of the most hard-working and influential illustrators of the 20th century. Enthusiasts of his art have collected his work published in comics which have gone out of copyright due to the closure of their publishers. In this video, I will read to you both of Walt Kelly's stories published in Santa Claus Funnies #1, published by Dell in 1942. I will also discuss observations on Kelly's art after the story. The Fir Tree by Hans Christian Andersen. Long ago, deep in the forest, there grew a pretty little fir tree. Although he had a pleasant home, the little tree was not very happy. He longed so much for the day when he would be straight and tall that he could think of nothing but growing. The hare loved to jump over the little tree to make it feel still smaller. But soon the little fir had grown very tall, and every day when the woodsman came to the forest he would tremble with excitement. How he envied the other trees when they were cut down by the woodsman. "What will happen to these trees?" he asked the crane. "They will become the masts of fine ships," was the answer. When the winter snows had piled high, the fir tree had still not been taken, and he felt very sad. "Don't feel badly," said the little chickadee. "Perhaps you'll be chosen to be a Christmas tree. Then you will be taken to a fine home and given a beautiful gown of ornaments and candles. Everyone will stand around and admire you." "Oh, do you suppose I might? How wonderful that would be!" "You'll soon know. Here come some men now looking for Christmas trees." "I've found a beauty here, John." "Aye, hurry with it, for we start back soon." How his heart filled with joy when the men cut him down. Now he would be a Christmas tree. Then there was a glorious trip into town on the sleigh. "Travel is indeed a wonderful experience," sighed the fir tree happily. "I'll take your finest tree." And before he could catch his breath, he had been bought and carried away. "We must lock the door so the children won't see us." The next thing he knew, he was placed in a tub in the middle of a beautiful room. "How fine the tree will look with these paper dolls hanging on it." "This little wooden village will be just right to place under the tree." "I must arrange this cloth to cover the tub so it will not spoil his beauty." "Soon these gingerbread men and sugar cookies will be ready to place on the tree." When at last the tree was trimmed, his heart swelled with pride. He shone with splendor, and at the very tip was a glorious golden star. But horrors! His trembling with happiness caused a candle to tilt and ignite a branch. "Ha! There! The fire is out." But quickly water was dashed on the flame, and no harm was done. "All right, I guess everything is ready for the children." Finally, the double doors were unlocked to admit the children. What cries of happiness greeted the tree as the children caught sight of his beauty! How they danced in an ecstasy of delight! "Tell us the story of Lumpy Dumpy, Uncle, please do." And when they had their fill of toys and gifts, the children gathered around the fat little man and begged for their favorite story. Now at last the fir tree was happy. It, too, listened contentedly to the story of Lumpy Dumpy. "Go quietly now, children." At length the Christmas party ended. Night fell, and the house became quiet. Only the fir tree was left waiting for a new day of happiness to begin. Days went by, and the fir tree felt deserted, for nobody came near it. It wondered when the fun would begin again. "That was certainly a pretty tree." Finally, one day someone appeared, and the tree could hardly repress a glad cry. But to his dismay, he found they had come to strip him of his gay ornaments. And in a few minutes, he found himself being thrown down into the dark cellar. "Hello, it's an old fir tree." "Old? Old? Can you be meaning me?" "Of course. Where do you come from?" "Oh, that's a long story. Would you like to hear it?" "Oh, yes, tell us." So the lonely fir tree told the mice of his old home in the forest and how he became a Christmas tree. "That was a fine story, Fir Tree. Perhaps you'll repeat it to old Grandfather Rat." "I'd be glad to." "Well, I'd rather hear about cheese and bacon and sacks of grain." But the old rat was not very interested in the fir tree, and hobbled off in search of food. "Well, I guess we'll leave since you have no more stories to tell us." And the mice scampered away to find amusement somewhere else. Alas, Here I am deserted, and will never see my forest home again." And the poor tree yearned for the days when he was growing in the forest. One day, the hired man came to get the tree. "Ha," thought the fir, "perhaps I'm to be trimmed again." "This will burn well, lad." And indeed he was, but not in the way he anticipated. His branches were trimmed off and the trunk cut into small pieces. The little boy then carried the wood upstairs into the house. When evening came, the family gathered around the fireplace, and the warmth of the little fir tree penetrated the room. As the sparks of the fire rose into the night sky to join their brother stars, the tree's spirit once more found happiness, for now he was restored to the great outdoors and could forever look down upon the forest, which had been his home. The end. Lord Octopus Went to the Christmas Fair by Stella Mead. Lord Octopus went to the Christmas Fair. An hour and a half he was traveling there. Then he had to climb for a weary time to the slimy block of a sandstone rock, and creep away to the big wide bay, where a stout old whale held his Christmas sail. Lord Octopus went to the Christmas Fair. An hour and a half he was traveling there. His 2 little girls and 2 little boys were waiting at home for their Christmas toys. And dear old Granny and fat Aunt Fanny and Cousin Dolly and Sister Molly would think Lord Octopus quite unpleasant unless he brought them a Christmas present. Lord Octopus went to the Christmas Fair. An hour and a half he was traveling there. He purchased 2 hoops for the little boys. He purchased 2 rings for the girls as toys. He bought for Granny a sweet nightcap, for Cousin Dolly a winter wrap, to please Aunt Fanny a game of snap, for Sister Molly a sea route map. With hoops for the boys, for the girls round rings, the wrap and the rest of the Christmas things, tied up into packets and parcels strong, Lord Octopus merrily went along. On every arm he hung a present, and said, "It's really rather pleasant to have 8 arms instead of 2. What can those human creatures do with just 2 arms for all the toys they have to buy their girls and boys?" The end. Walt Kelly enthusiast Richard Davidson wrote an introduction to this comic material. He writes that Santa Claus Funnies included a mix of classic Christmas stories and poems, along with new stories. The Fir Tree is an example of an adaptation of a classic work. Davidson notes Walt Kelly's use of ornate border illustrations in this comic, and he credits Kelly for capturing the serious and uplifting message of Hans Christian Andersen's original melancholy story. I'll add my personal observation that Kelly's portrayal of the tree with facial expressions adds humor to parts of the story, and it helps to communicate effectively to children how Hans Christian Andersen's tree is a personified character with emotion. Here are my thoughts on Kelly's art. With the exception of the last page, Kelly makes use of at least 1 ornate border per page. This helps give the borders a consistent rhythm. What these borders do is they slow down the reading of each page by giving the eye more details to linger on. Kelly's elegant speech bubbles with cloud-like curves are not common in more recent comics, and they add an old-time illustration feeling, which also fits with the excellent lettering. Also note that Kelly will add an ornate first letter in quieter panels like this one. This helps signal to the reader that the seasons have changed from spring to winter. Kelly also occasionally makes use of faded panels which terminate in squiggles. This helps to emphasize the bright blaze of light in both of these panels from page 4, and to conserve space in panels with a large number of characters like this one from page 6. Kelly also favors terminating his art in organic shapes. This helps prevent his text boxes from getting too crowded. Panel 1 of page 6 is a perfect example of this. Lord Octopus is noteworthy for having absolutely no traditional panel layouts. I think it's a special testament to Kelly's ability to draw clear characters that he's able to give this character, who has 8 arms, the appearance of motion, and he gives all of his hands a unique expression. He does use ornate decoration again to create these faux panels. This is helping guide the reader and understand the order they're supposed to read things. This does cause a little bit of confusion on page 3, where a reader might try to read these panels left, right, top to bottom. The strong, vertical, ornate decoration in the middle is a clear indicator, in my opinion, that Kelly intended these 4 panels to be read in this order. Stella Mead's poem is charming, but Kelly is to be credited for adding comedic value and detail to every panel, like the seal and tortoise taxi in the final panel. I think his illustrations are selling this story. Kelly's work in this obscure Christmas comic magazine is a testament to his professionalism and his consistent strength as an artist of expressive characters, and I'm so happy that enthusiasts of Kelly's work have helped preserve these comics for new generations. You can read more comics from this series through the Digital Comics Museum. They do the best they can to ensure that they only include comic books on their site where the copyright has expired and not been renewed. Let me know in the comments section if you'd like me to read more Christmas-themed comics illustrated by the legendary Walt Kelly. With that, I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. I love you guys, I love my patrons on Patreon who support this channel, and thank you all for watching this video and for supporting this channel with your likes, your comments, and by subscribing and clicking the bell. Catch you later, gang. And when they had their fill of toys and gifts, Perhaps you'll repeat it to old grandfather.